of SEC wins. You're a national seed. LSU's got 10, and we're just now into the first week of April. So you're on a great pace right now.
Yeah, definitely on a great pace. But you know who also is at a great pace, Zach?
Who's that?
LSU basketball.
Wow.
No, I'm not women's. I want to clarify the men's team. I know the men's team has been kind of the thorn in every LSU sports fans hiney. However, you know, we mentioned Scott Woodward mentioned this near the end of the season when everyone's thinking about what they were going to do with Matt McMahon, whether they were going to fire him or not after a disappointing year. A lot of people thought that this was the year. You're catapulting off of the previous season where you improved, you had a winning record. Yes, you made the NIT. I know that's not the most ideal thing in the world, but you made the NIT after, you know, finishing second to last in the SEC the year before. This season was supposed to be the year where you're supposed to compete for a tournament spot. You know, that's where this kind of where you saw this team at. However, you had one player leave before the year due to personal issues. Jalen Reed getting hurt in the middle of the year. And again, after the season, that was an ideal thing as well. And of course, LSU just stumbled down the road, and they had a very disappointing year where they finished second last. However, Scott Woodward quoted that they were going to keep Matt McMahon, and what they're going to do to improve the basketball program is to give the basketball team more money to spend on NIL and recruiting and whatnot, which I don't know why they weren't doing that beforehand. Like, and I'm not saying like Matt McMahon is completely off the hook. I'm not, you know, I have some criticism of Matt McMahon, of course, after this past season. But the fact that you had to come out and say, yeah, we had to put more money in NIL, where was that beforehand? Like, you know, Zach, and you know this, right? You went to LSU, you're from Baton Rouge, but LSU's basketball program has always been generally a solid program. They've made it into the tournament most years. I mean, Dale Brown had a lot of success there, led the program to 2 Final Fours. And, you know, they were always getting the top players, Shaquille O'Neal, Chris Jackson, you name it. And even in the John Brady years, they had some success, making multiple appearances to the Sweet 16. Of course, made it to the Final Four in 2006, where they upset that great Duke team with J.J. Redick and, you know, those guys. I mean, they were a fantastic team that year. LSU beat them to go on the Elite Eight, where they upset Texas in the Elite Eight and then advanced to the Final Four. And then, of course, Will Wade. I know they had some bad years on Johnny Jones, and I forgot the other coach's name too.
Trent Jones.
Trent Jones, yeah. Then they hired up, because they remember they had didn't they recruit a player from the band, like a tuba player, because he was
Andrew Del Piero. Yeah, he was like a 7-foot tall tuba player.
Yes. I remember Joey Collas telling that story on his podcast. But yeah, you went through recruiting a tuba player out of the band to become your center to Will Wade, who was a fantastic recruiter, always gave players strong-ass steals, which, by the way, their strong-ass steals got him a lot of trouble, and then say forced LSU to fire him, and LSU really has not recovered since then. Meanwhile, in the whole time, Alabama has invested a lot of money into the program. Alabama did not have the program that LSU had. Mm-hmm. Yet they're a national title contender. They've been the national title contender for the last few seasons. Auburn has been a national title contender the last few years. Auburn's not it's not a better program historically than LSU. Nope. You've seen a lot of Ole Miss. Has put a lot of money into the basketball program, rebuilding the arena, the whole night. Everyone has put money into the basketball program and have rebuilt the facilities to make it look nice, to make sure these players are taken well, the coaches and players are taken well care of. Everyone's in that except for LSU. You know how I know it's bad? Because even Kim Mulkey is scratching and clawing and forcing the administration to pay up to help the women's basketball program. And they get more NIL funding than the men's do.
Yeah.
Because of that, LSU decided to fix everything. And they hired a general manager. You know, we've seen this a lot around college sports. Of course, Davidson hired Steph Curry to be the general manager. Stanford hired Andrew Luck to be the state general manager for football. We've already seen him fire a head coach. LSU brought that type of person in. It's former LSU star Ronald Dupree, who was a star in the early 2000s for LSU. He's returning to his alma mater to become the general manager of LSU. He was in the front office of the Milwaukee Bucks since 2021. He served as the director of global scouting, and he had been a scout with the Bucks since 2017. And before that, he was a assistant coach at the college basketball ranks, serving both the LSU and Nevada. And before that, he was a professional basketball player for a little close to 10 years before going back to LSU to finish his undergraduate credits, where he served as a coach. And then, of course, now he worked in front office. He worked in the front office of the Milwaukee Bucks, the NBA. He has a ring, by the way, his NBA ring.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. And now he's the general manager for LSU. And that's also on top of the fact that LSU has been phenomenal getting guys out of the transfer portal. Recently, they got Summit League Player of the Year in Markel Sutton, right? From University of Omaha. Averaged 19 points a game, 19 points and 8 rebounds per game last season for the Mavericks. And yeah, like I said, he won the Summit League Player of the Year. They also picked up a transfer from Portland by the name of Max McKinnon, an Australian, 14.5 points per game, 4.8 rebounds, 3.2 assists. You also picked up Michael Nwoko, who was the first player that signed for LSU. He's similar to Markel Sutton. He's a big man, and he was a starter for Mississippi State last season. And Rashad King. But Rashad King was a first-team all-conference player for Northeastern, a Division I school, and, of course, the Northeast, more specifically right outside Boston, where he averaged 19.4 points per game in league play. So all these guys were starters for their respective teams, and some even earned honors from their conference. And some of these players were even some of the more highly touted transfers in the transfer portal. Will it contribute to LSU winning basketball games next year? Yeah, you would hope so. Of course, LSU, but the good thing is what the positive news about this whole thing. Of course, you're bringing in players and you're bringing in Ronald Dupree to be your general manager. I think people want to see LSU care about its basketball teams. I think that's been that's what we've been asking for from this administration for a very long time. Because if Alabama and Auburn and if Alabama and Auburn can do it, where you can maintain football, basketball, and baseball, certainly LSU could do the same. They can.
Yeah, there's no reason that LSU, who, aside from obviously Kentucky and Florida, might historically be the best program in the SEC. Men's basketball is the only other revenue generating sport in college athletics. Like, it's silly to just neglect it like the way LSU is. So you've got to at least try. And it just feels like they just haven't been trying these past couple of years. And I've been critical of Matt McMahon as well, but with just these rosters he's had to work with, you can't expect a top chef, the best chef in the world, if you don't give him the right ingredients. So like, what if he flops this year with the roster that they're assembling? Okay, now let's have that discussion in earnest. But I don't want to give him a pass, but it's also like, well, okay, you do better. And I don't know how much better he could have done, especially with all this bargain bin shopping they've been doing.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous for LSU to completely ignore basketball because everyone else in the conference is focused on basketball. The SEC's made it a mission to become more of a basketball league. You literally had 2 teams in the Final Four. Greg Sankey's made that very clear. It's been very clear that this league is becoming more and more of a basketball league. They want to be an all-sports league. And for some reason, LSU just refuses to become more of a basketball school. They refuse to put money in their facilities. They refuse to renovate the PMAC over time. while everyone else has either renovated their stadiums or built new state-of-the-art facilities. You don't need for example, you don't need a 13,000 seat stadium. You can build an 8,000, 9,000 seat stadium like Auburn and make it not only a hospital environment for its fans, but also make it hard for opposing players on the court. Because all the way Auburn's arena is built a lot like Duke's, where they want not only is it compact and you have 8,000-9,000, you can fill it the same with 8,000, 9,000 people, but because it's compact, they're on top of you. Like LSU needs to do a better job, not only of creating, not only making, doing everybody else, like makes the committing more and more to the sport of basketball, but also creating a culture. There is no culture around LSU basketball. There's none. They don't appeal to anybody, whether it's the players, whether it's the coaches, or even as fans, especially the fans. Fans complain about the PMAC all the time. It's about damn time.
It's so
I know. It's about damn time. I don't want to explain how bad it is. I actually worked there as a student. It's bad. I can tell you that it's bad. It's horrendous. I'm not going to go into details, but it's bad. It's absolutely horrendous that LSU refuses to invest in its basketball teams, whether it's men's and women's. Yes, they invested in women's basketball. Not really. Not the way they should. Because even Kamoki's scratching you clawing to get what she wants. So, I mean, I'm glad we're seeing the positive news about what's going on in the transfer portal and, bringing in Ronald Dupree as GM. And, I'm glad. I'm super happy. But at least LSU showing some commitment there. But you have to show a little bit more of that, right? You have to. You have to start investing in these programs. You have to. There's there's no excuse when Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Auburn, Alabama, 4 schools that don't have the history that you do in terms of basketball, are all better than you and are showing not only as players and coaches that he cares about the sport of basketball, but also showing his fans. And that's something LSU needs to do. Zach, you have anything else to say before we wrap this up?
The SEC has 16 schools. 14 of them got into the NCAA tournament. It is embarrassing that you weren't one of the 14 teams.
Yes. I should have mentioned that too. And how many teams made it to the Elite Eight? How many teams made it to the Sweet 16 Elite Eight? Do you remember?
7 Sweet 16s, and then 4 in the Elite Eight because there was a chance at an All SEC Final Four. Am I remembering that right? The bracket?
Yeah. Yeah, let me look it up. Yeah, so in the Sweet 16, you had Auburn, Ole Miss, Florida, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama. Yeah, so you had about 6 or 7, and you had a possibility that you had all 4 teams be from the SEC. There was like a legit possibility. So it's absolutely embarrassing, as Zach said, that you're one of the 14. You were of the 14 of the 16 teams in the SEC, 14 made the tournament. It's an absolute embarrassment that LSU was not able to make the tournament, considering the fact that the year before you looked like a competitive basketball team. So a lot of people had expectations that maybe you're going to compete for a tournament spot. But we're here now.
They were projected to finish 14th, and they finished 15th. So, come on.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.